changing the scheduling of contract audits and reviews and the management of disputes. Given the increased use of online tools as we're doing with this conference, how does the engagement for dispute management change? And of course, one that has continued to come back up and was mentioned by the previous speaker is in relation to force majeure. So how are licenses and agreements, how should we ensure that licenses and agreements are changed to be more flexible given the experiences of unplanned acts, whether these are unplanned acts by nature, by governments, or other forces over we have no control. Ladies and gentlemen, we are certainly in the midst of interesting times, but I believe that these times provide us an opportunity to look ahead and do things differently. I fully intend to be an active participant as the insights are provided here, and expect that these will certainly help for the view and the approaches that the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce will take to its membership and the wider business community in Jamaica. Let me say welcome to Jamaica, albeit virtually, and we look forward to a great conference. Thank you.
Mr. Diston, thank you so much for your keen perspectives and your reflections on the very practical difficulties that we face in these difficult times. I know that these proceedings and this conference are being recorded. I was trying to note all of those very deep and important questions that you've asked, but there's really no need for me to take them down. I'm sure Mr. Malcolm in particular has them to take on board, and that no doubt the JAIC, in conjunction with this group of speakers and participants, can find some answers to those very pragmatic and serious questions that we have to deal with if we are going forward in dealing with proper dispute resolution and alternative dispute resolution. Thank you so much. I will now, therefore, ask Professor Velma Newton, who has been with us from the beginning here, I see, and she's to some she may need no introduction, but she is the officer in charge, the regional project director of the Improved Access to Justice in the Caribbean, Impact Justice, based in Barbados. The project is Impact Justice, and I invite Professor Newton to bring salutations on behalf of Impact.
Impact Justice is a project which has been funded by the Government of Canada. We've been operating in 12 countries in the region since 2014.
Hello.
Dr. Malcolm has been with us from the inception in various ways. Impact Justice has three main components. We draft legislation, model legislation, and we train drafters. And we've been trying to persuade the legal profession throughout the region to adopt continuing legal profession development with moderate success. And then the other large component is ADR. We have focused mainly on restorative practices and mediation, but one of our early initiatives was to draft an arbitration bill which contained provided for international and domestic arbitration, and which has been UNCTAD approved. That bill has been with the CARICOM Secretariat for some time now, as we ask them to look at it to declare CARICOM approved models for the rest of the region. It is very similar to the Jamaican arbitration bill. Now, we have also done some training in arbitration during the first 2 years of the project. We mainly trained persons who were working in the legal departments of governments in the region so that they could represent governments in any arbitrations that might come up as a result of their negotiations with other parties. But we have not really focused much on arbitration going forward, because the Caribbean branch of the International Institute of Arbitrators was doing training, and they were doing it quite competently. But we have been in touch with Malcolm all that time, and we fully support what the Jamaica Institute is doing, Jamaica International Arbitration Center is doing. And we have promised to continue our support to for the next 2 years that we will be in existence, because the party ends in 2022. But today we wish you all the best for this webinar, and we're going to be participating and looking to see what we can learn from the various speeches and initiatives proposed today. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Professor, thank you so much too for your words of encouragement and support. And we really appreciate your participation here with us today.
Thank you.
And thank you. I understand that our Honorable Minister, Mr. Delroy Chuck, is with us. He will now bring greetings on behalf of the Ministry of Justice and on behalf of the government of Jamaica. In fact, it might be a perfect time for him to come in just before also Dr. Christopher Malcolm, who is the Secretary General of the convener, will be asked to speak. So, Minister Chuck, without further ado, I invite you to bring your greeting.
Well, first of all, let me say greetings to everyone and welcome to Jamaica. I know you're listening in from across the world, so I just, also acknowledge everyone and say welcome. First of all, let me congratulate Dr. Christopher Malcolm and the Jamaica International Arbitration Center Limited for putting on this Zoom conference, virtual conference. I want to emphasize that even at this time with the pandemic across the world, that Jamaica is actively working. We never really closed down fully, and now we're trying to reopen back all of our various business. The courts have now reopened and things are now moving ahead. My greetings this morning is really to let all the participants know that Jamaica is still at the infancy stage in terms of arbitration and mediation. But as minister, I certainly am very supportive of the increased expansion and the use of dispute management, dispute resolution, alternative dispute resolutions. Because in all sincerity, we're having major problems within our courts to dispose of matters expeditiously. And I would like to say to all our participants, shortly in the future, I hope we can have a, not virtual, but actual conference here in Jamaica, where many of the persons who are participating, we will invite down as speakers, and that is to inspire our court system and our people in general, stakeholders in the courts, to know and understand the real efficiency and the strength of having mediation and arbitration and other ADR to resolve problems. Apart from conflicts, disputes, and various challenges in our communities, we still have them in the formal system in the courts. What is very sad is that we have a significant backlog of cases at all levels of the court system. And there's absolutely no doubt that we will never be able to resolve all of these cases, even if we try cases 24/7, all year round. At the moment, in the civil cases for trial, if a case is now ready for trial, it is now been set in 2025 or 2026. So we're litigants having settled the matters and are ready for trial. The trial date is now put for 2025 or 2026. This is absolutely ridiculous. And the real problems is that so many matters are actually going to trial. And my view is that more than half of them can in fact and should be settled by mediation or any other form of alternative dispute resolution. Even in the criminal cases, we're still having matters going on in years rather than months. So I can say to all the participants that the Jamaican government is focusing not only on reducing the backlog in the courts, but focusing strongly on mediation and any other form of alternative dispute resolution, because that we see as the main strategy by which we can resolve the many conflicts and the many matters that need settlement, not only in the courts, but across Jamaica. So to emphasize, we have been in touch with the Chamber of Commerce, Lloyd. We have had meetings, Lloyd. We have had meetings with the mediations, the centers. I have had meetings across the island. We're training more mediators. We're training more dispute resolutors, such as, we're doing at the moment a number of training of justices of the peace, attorneys, so that restorative justice, which is another form of mediation, we're pushing across the island. But at the end of the day, we need a very formal mediation centers right across Jamaica. We do have a few in some of the parishes, but what I hope, it happens now in the Supreme Court, matters go to mediation, but we don't have it as a sort of mandatory position in the low courts. If we have enough trained mediators, then we can make all matters come into the courts, go to mediation before they're actually dealt with in the courts. So it is something that I'm really pushing very hard to have more trained mediators. But at the end of the day, I want to say that I don't think that we in Jamaica have bought in fully into mediation and arbitration. And that is where Dr. Christopher, Malcolm, yourself, Justice Mangatal, and all of our participants, we have to let all Jamaicans, the lawyers in particular, appreciate that mediation is not taken from them. It is assisting them to resolve matters that come to them, and it will help them to resolve matters quicker, even if it has to go to court. And what is important, and we will be pushing it, the Singapore Convention on Mediation, we're adopting it, and very shortly we're hoping to put together a mediation act suitable to the local circumstances in Jamaica. When the Mediation Act is put together in Jamaica, we're hoping that this will be the driving force behind ensuring that mediation is one of the main strategies to resolve disputes. So I want to congratulate all the participants, and I ask you to think of how you can assist us in Jamaica to make mediation a top priority. And we hope that all the participants, perhaps in 2021 or 2022, we hope to see you in Jamaica as we roll out mediation as a major focus here in Jamaica.
Minister Chuck, thank you so much. You have given us so much food for thought, and I believe ears are open and people are taking on board what you are saying. You're well known for your pragmatism and that mathematical background with a logical analysis. We know about that as well.
And I must say that I won't be able to stay with you. Right. I may have to leave now because I have to go to Parliament. I'm making my budget presentation today, and I will be focusing on several matters, including mediation, in my presentation in Parliament. So do excuse me, and I wish all the participants that this virtual conference will be a great success.
We fully understand, and thank you for taking the time out of what we know is an impossibly busy schedule to be with us. Mr. Malcolm, of course, needs very little introduction to you all. Rather, Dr. Malcolm is Secretary General of the Jamaica International Arbitration Center, JAIAC, and he is a senior lecturer.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to all our panelists and participants throughout. We are happy to have you today and in this virtual seminar, conference, which we hope to be very productive. We have what I think is a very interesting topic for discussion: dispute management in a new world. And when we think of the new world, we think really in this current era of a new world having been brought on by COVID-19. But it is also instructive to recall that sometime around 1492, when Columbus got lost and encountered these parts, he thought he had found the New World. So we're actually speaking from what was since then considered to have been the New World. And we're in a context where we see emerging developments happening, which we have to from time to time ensure are applicable to our circumstances. And one of the things that we need to understand is the value of dispute management in this new world that we're in. Now, insofar as COVID-19 is concerned, we understand it to be a pandemic. And as dispute management practitioners, we understand that the next pandemic that will flow is one for dispute resolution, where you will have at the end of this person's having suffered loss in several ways, wanting to find effective ways to distribute those losses. And what we need to understand is that that will cause a series of actions to have to be taken, which will include dispute avoidance, dispute management, and ultimately resolution in one form or another. And what this conference is doing, and I know I have very limited time, is to bring us together where we can look progressively at some of the issues that are arising, not just by reference to legal issues, but by reference, importantly, to the question of business continuity, for example, where we understand that for all that we do, if we do not have an effective and functioning economy, then a lot of the other actions that we take really do not give us the sort of benefit that we would want. So I would want to add, by way of closing really, that in this conference, what we're seeking to do is to look at what it is that we as dispute management practitioners can do in the overriding context of economies that need to be engaged, economies that need to stay alive and thrive, and see how it is that we can use the legal and dispute management processes to help this. Thank you very much for having given me the time, Chair, and I trust that we will all have a good and engaging day.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malcolm. You're good to your own guidance that you give to us as speakers, and I appreciate that. And that brings us to the end of this session. I invite you all to remain with us for future sessions for convenience in what promises to be an interesting and stimulating conference. Our next session is Business Continuity and Supply Chain Logistics, and it starts a few minutes. It will be chaired by my friend and colleague, Mr. Milton Samuda. Thank you all.